In nature, as in life, there are laws, there are rules, there's all kinds of ways of confining behavior. And in sales, I dedicated a whole chapter of my book to this because what I found was there were patterns, and these patterns could be broken down into laws. And what helped me was to remember these as part of my DNA. And today we're going to be talking about, I'm going to call it rules. You can call it laws. You can argue about the distinction. But we have these in life. We have laws of nature, gravity, all kinds of things as far as how nature goes. But then as a society, we have rules and laws. We're experiencing some of them right now. But in sales, nobody tells us these things. Somewhat like in life. There are principles, there are habits, but these are simple ways to confine the game we're playing. When you have a board game, the first thing you do is you flip over the board and you learn the rules. What are the rules as far as how to move things? Who goes when? Who gets skipped? What is the definition of winning? And in sales, these are critical elements because first, no one really talks about them. Nobody really shares them because they're not incentivized. Most reps are kind of lone wolves and see everybody else as a competitor instead of a collaborator. I came up with a bunch of these in my book. Some of them is, revenue solves all problems. And that's pretty much what I hear every time I talk to a sales leader is, this person isn't doing this. I can't motivate them to do that. But when they're making their number and you're making your number, it all looks like it's pretty well working okay now, isn't it? And what isn't overtly positive is covertly negative. And this law to me is a law of behavior. How to tell when somebody is interested or not interested, because people tend not to tell the 100% truth. Not that they're lying, it's just that no one gets rewarded for delivering bad news. These rules, we all have to come up with our own, take other people's that fit what you're selling and the way you sell, and document them. Because how do they come up in the beginning? Usually it's because you repeatedly make the same mistake. Look at traffic. In traffic, we have speed limits. We have rules about when to stop, when to slow down, when to pull over, what lane to be in. And then we go into like an airport. And I've always found this so weird. Especially, I'm a big runner and a pedestrian. And, so I stay to the right, much like we do when we drive. But in being a pedestrian, there's unwritten rules. There's no book. There's no real laws. You don't get arrested for running too fast or walking too fast or slow or on the wrong side, maybe crossing the street when you shouldn't. But there's really very few rules there. Now, then you go into aircraft and you go into a airport, it's mayhem. Why? Because there's no written rules. Don't say to the right. What happens? You get off the plane and people will be walking really fast and then they stop and they don't even look. They stop in the middle of the hallway and you're right behind them going, hey, we're going here. We're walking. Can we keep it up? In sales, all of these rules and laws need to be learned because that's how the game is played. They're not written down, and sometimes they don't always apply. Sometimes there's little gaps in them. Sometimes they're general heuristics, like it doesn't snow during the summer, or many of these different things. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. These little, folklore, but if we document them, if we review them occasionally, they'll save us so much time. Why? Because we can't remember all the particular cases. We have to have a general rule of behavior, a general pattern, a habit to become successful. We're going to get into this. Today I got Mike on, and Mike's got his rules. We're going to talk through them. He's got a real passion for sales and a passion for a sales team. And that's how he came about me. on LinkedIn, on my videos, his team tagging him saying, hey, don't ever do this to us. And then he contacted me and I go, yeah, let's jump on the podcast and talk through these, because I think it's something that all reps need to learn, need to document for yourself. Feel free to steal mine and steal Mike's. It's a good beginning. And let's get into the interview. Make sure you're checking out our partners over at Co-Video. Everyone's telling me video is cutting through. Video is connecting with people. Video, they can see you. They can get a sense of what you're going through. You can be a little bit funny. You can be a little gregarious, a little unique. Let your personality come through. Come on, you got a personality. Don't put it on the shelf just because you're selling. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. If you're in the courses, make sure you're checking out the latest one-on-ones in the office hours. They're pure gold. I'm holding the prices till the end of April, but that's it. That's your last chance. Here we go. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hey, thanks, Brian. What an honor to be on your podcast. And I just have to say, we really appreciate all the things you do for us out there in sales and sales management. My team loves all your podcasts and your LinkedIn posts. So thanks for that. Just a brief background from me. I'm a native of the great state of Alabama. I'm an alum of Alabama. Live in the Houston area with my wife, 2 sons, we're other houses, but 2 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and an amazing grandson that you will all be hearing about with his athletic career, class of 2036, named Jack. So if you're on social media, hashtag don't know Jack, and it's about his conversations with me.
Yeah, cool.
I'm a sales leader. That's what my passion is. Currently, I'm a director of sales in North America for Underwriters Laboratories, Life and Health Sciences. So if you look on every extension cord or TV, you see UL.
Yep.
That's us. But we're in the medical device space. So that's what I do. And I lead a team of inside and outside sales people, 13 people around North America. And I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to do what I love to do every day. And they pay me for it. So it's just a real blessing.
Cool. Hey, you came up with Mike's Rules. What was the genesis of that?
Well, for those of you that watch the TV show NCIS, there's quite a character played by Mark Harmon, Leroy Jethro Gibbs, and he has what's called Gibbs Rules. Like Gibbs Rule number 1 or number 9, always carry a knife. So we have these sayings within our organization that sort of came from me. So they said, let's do Mike's Rules. So we created Mike's Rules to have some fun with, and it's sort of gotten a life of its own. Our VP said, send this to everybody on this call, and it was global. So it's just things for us to align as a team, something like, and I knew I was on to something when I was walking down the hall in our headquarters in Chicago, and I heard one of the engineers say, Rule 16, more than 2 emails on a single subject, pick up the phone. And so we have some fun with that, and it's gone around, but it's now to the point where as a team, we won't even, on a call, we might say, okay, so Rule 28. Rule 28 is don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining from Cool Hand Luke. So it's really brought us together as a team and showed some appreciation to our team within the rest of the organization. So it's really we have fun with it.
Yeah, I think it sets a certain culture, a certain paradigm, view of sales, a mindset.
It really does. And with UL, we've been around 125 years.
Is that all?
But they've only had a sales team for 15 because they didn't have to. So it's an engineering-run organization, a magnificent organization. So what that's helped us do is really align with an engineering-driven organization and have some fun with it. So it really is very effective in creating a positive culture for our organization.
Oh, give us maybe some of the counterintuitive rules, the ones that most reps wouldn't know.
It is we have some fun, and I'm going to look at my phone here because I've got them pulled up. But Rule 15 is bad news doesn't get better with age. So we like that one. Rule number 1, selling something always makes things better.
Yeah.
And so if you're not sure, refer to rule number 1. And then we have some fun things. So my mom's name is Ginger. So we have something called Go Ginger if you need to. And what that means is when computers came out, my sister and I got my mom a computer, and her name is Ginger. And then my mom would get these forwarded emails, and she would forward them to me, but then she would call me and tell me, you have an email from me. So what I've told the team is, if you really need my attention, go Ginger and text me or call me to look at this email. So now I'll get text messages that will just say Ginger. And that tells me it's urgent. Go look at the email, boss. And so we just really try to have some fun with it. Then we put stuff in there like a problem without a solution is a whine. We've got some good things in there. Learn the man in the arena speech from Teddy Roosevelt. You need to know that. And then there's always a movie quote for every situation in business. So I told them to make sure they learned the classics: Caddyshack, Blues Brothers, Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Those. So again, it's something. It's really brought us together as a team, and but we really have a lot of fun with it. And at the end of the day, we need to have a good time at our job to do good work.
I really like number one. My view of that was revenue solves all problems.
Exactly. So we can certainly edit it. It's to the point now that I have engineers reaching out to me and say, "Hey, you should edit this one." And I will, and then I'll give them credit for it with Rev 4 or whatever that goes out. So that's probably a pretty good Rev to number one.
Yeah, because when you have sales and it's working, no one's looking to find fault. Right. When it's not working,
that's right.
It's their fault, right? It's everybody's fault.
Exactly. So along those lines, Rule 41 is when you point a finger at somebody, there's three more pointing back at yourself.
Yeah.
So it's that way, but it's helped align us because when I got to UL about a year ago, it was clear that our operations and our sales were not aligned. They were just going exactly opposite through real no fault of either one. But I knew immediately we had to do some things to create alignment between the two. And it's still a work in progress, but it's going real well. And that's been one thing that's helped. We also recommended that everybody read Extreme Leadership, Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
And engineers were required to read it. So I started getting messages. Number one, we didn't know the sales guy could read. And number two, thanks a lot for making us read this book. But then they got a lot out of it. So, it's really been a pretty cool journey so far.
And so it sounds like personal ownership is a real centerpiece of your leadership style. Yeah.
Very much. And we make a very concerted effort to not use the word I. It's we. So, it needs to be about the team. And so one thing that we did when we came in, if you think about it, and you do a great job of this on your snippets of all the things we as sales managers shouldn't do. And you don't put it like that, but it's like pipeline review, your best case. And I'm thinking, wow, I just do the same thing. So what I got to thinking of is if you look at how organizations are, there's two things. There's the objective, the measurables. So you have the individual behavior. I have a model I use, and then you have the systems and procedures. And let's face it, we're really good at that in sales. This many calls. Did you get it in CRM? What's your forecast? We're great at that.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the subjective side, that's where you involve individual motivation and culture. And that is just as important as having great systems. So if you can have the greatest systems in the world, if your culture stinks and you don't have alignment, they're not going to do it. If you have a great culture but not good systems, kind of the same thing. So it's kind of an integral approach that I follow to create a deliberate approach. It doesn't look deliberate, but it really is in creating a culture where everybody works towards the success of everybody. There's a word called mudita, which means celebrating the success of others. And that's what we do. So it's been really fun to see the team come together and reach levels of performance that they just really didn't think were even possible. And it's to their credit. We just want to lay the foundation where they can do it and believe in them, coach them. And then that's when the magic starts to happen, when you're deliberately at work on the culture.
That's it, because the system isn't going to create the culture. If the culture isn't there,
Right.
And it isn't some level of teamwork, some level of personal responsibility,
Right.
and a true north principle of
Exactly.
what direction are we going and why.
Right. It's what about the why? I mean, we sometimes, and I think about when I was carrying a bag, and sales managers are sometimes like parents. Why are we going to do this? Because I said so. And that stings. So I really try not to do that, and I really do try to explain the why behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that helps people understand why we're doing certain things and why we have to have these processes. But again, the culture being strong enough to where, okay, this is why we're doing it. It's necessary. And I think that really helps. So it's really fun to see, the levels of performance we've reached. I had a guy in the first quarter do double what he's ever done in a quarter before because I'm going to be here. So it just took some time for them to realize that's this is not fake. It really is sourced from caring about our individuals and then coaching them up. I mean, there's some things that we can all get better at, and the team is taking coaching. So whether it's being, green sheets for Miller Hyman, or what are you thinking about this account, or how do we handle this situation? Once they realized that I cared about them and their success, then that's when you started to see some magic happening, and it's really cool to see it come together. And then we followed. Price's Law, the one about
the square root?
I follow a slight version of that. And many years ago, one of the CEOs of one of the large office supply stores came in, and they said, what's your strategy? After 6 months, apparently did a good job. He said, well, when I got there, we had three types of stores. We had A stores that always over, B stores, pretty good, and then we had C stores that were terrible. He said, and everybody before me had spent all their time trying to make C stores B stores.
Yeah.
What that guy did was he closed the C stores and then spent time getting out of the way and helping the A stores, and then trying to make the B stores the A stores. So that's really kind of the model that I use. So we had to have some turnover. Just people through no fault of their own were in the wrong roles. So getting the team where we want it and getting the right people doing the right things is a big part of the culture. And, showing the team that we'll make tough decisions to where they don't have to drag along low performers. Again, doesn't mean they're bad people. It just meant they were in the wrong jobs. You wouldn't want me running the accounting system. Just
right.
don't have the skill set. So that's what we had to do. So the culture is very intentional in that how the team comes together. So I just got off our virtual coffee break that we're doing during these times, and I know a lot of people are doing those. But 15 minutes, show us your cup of coffee. How you doing? And a couple of times people started talking business, like stop. It's not what we're doing here. How you doing? Anybody going stir crazy? What are you watching on Netflix? Just, again, just showing them that we really care about how you're doing. So the guy, Rich, that I mentioned, says if he hears the Frozen soundtrack anymore, that he's going to jump off the roof, and we can't have that. So, just knowing how they're doing and the name of their kids and their dogs and stuff. So we've done some things under COVID that I think has helped too. Historically, we've done a sales call every other Friday because, we've all been on those sales calls. It's like, oh man, an hour of just droning on. You hit mute, you're doing emails, you're not paying attention. And I've been on those calls. We're not going to do them that way. So we do them every other week with a good agenda and make sure a lot of participation. Well, now that we're all working from home, we're doing them every week. So one thing we're doing is we have themes. So week before last, it was show us your favorite sports team. So and a lady who won had her baby son on dressed as an Atlanta Braves baseball. She won. Ditka jersey, me with Alabama, that kind of thing. Last week was show us your pet. So we had cats, and dogs and parakeets and showing us that. Just to kind of touch on the human side, because this is kind of hard right now and that we care about them. And then tomorrow is show us a picture that means something to you. So I'll show a picture of my two sons at one of them's wedding, and just what it means to us. So again, it goes down to just really caring about your people, but then recognizing that they're all different and to hone in on what they need to improve on to get better. So that's where a little gray hair comes in handy, because you've seen most of the type of reps and how to coach them, and it is different. And luckily, I have a wonderful bride of 36 years, so she coaches me pretty hard on how to handle some things, especially with those without a Y chromosome, and it's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I like that because having been a rep my whole life, I went from a pre-sales role where they cared a lot about you, but they didn't pay you. It was a pure salary. And it was a reasonable, but nowhere compared to a sales rep. And then you become a sales rep and they don't care about you.
Right.
Or only to the extent of the revenue you're bringing in that month.
Exactly. What have you done for me lately?
And it was never a good feeling because, and it was almost like they didn't want to care about you because then they would feel bad if they had to do something to you.
Right.
And that's wrong.
Yeah, it is. It's funny that I've got multiple people that I have had to let go. It's just what you do in the job. And I'm actually references for several of them. And one of them I told when I let him go a while back, I said, I'm a reference for you. And he said, well, you just canned me for lack of performance. I said, I won't be a reference for you as a similar job, but you have a passion for environmental auditing. Yeah. Man, you'd be the best in the world at that. He goes, yeah, whatever. He pinged me a month or two later, said, man, you gave me the biggest blessing in my life because I'm now doing what I'm passionate about.
Right.
So it's pretty fun how many ex-sales reps that I worked with I'm now in contact with. And I don't think it's just because we treated them well, even coaching them, whether they're not with us or anymore, or the companies are not with us anymore.
That's it, because C players are typically either in the wrong job or they only got into sales for the money, but don't want to put the effort in.
Exactly. And we all have blind spots. I mean, my goodness, I got massive ones myself.
One or two.
But you can kind of look at it from a different set of eyes and like, hey, what, this really just isn't for you. And that's okay. Look, I've had bosses tell me before, going through layoffs, biggest favor we're ever doing for you. And you're thinking, yeah, right. But ultimately that's the case. And when you can realize what your passion is and then go do that for a living, man, your life gets better.
Right.
And the C players should be doing something else.
Yeah. And the B players, if they want to become A players, they'll find out how to do it.
Right.
Or if they're just comfortable, then, well, that's fine too. You're making your number, right?
And that's okay. If they don't want to be rock stars, hit their number. I mean, we need those, and that works out. And that works out fine. So, but again, really, my thing with A players, I tell them, look, I'm here if you need me. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm going to try to remove stuff that keeps you from being an A+ player. Tell me what you need.
Right.
And then go get it. And one thing we do on our weekly calls is we do a session called What's Working. And with that is we have a success story from one of the sales people of what's working for them. So there, it's not Mike preaching to you. It's like, hey, Stephanie just did this. Dang, I can do that.
That's genius.
And it really is effective. So we have some fun with that too. So right after the cats parade by, then we can say, okay, what's working? So you got 10 minutes. Tell us what's working in Atlanta, because it'll work in San Francisco and Boston and Houston.
Yeah.
So it just shows that we value what they bring to the team, because the team is stronger than the sum of all the individual parts.
And that's a critical point, because no one person knows everything.
Exactly.
And it's come through. I've got a couple of online courses, and what's come through is that the community is coming up with even better ideas, better examples, varying examples. And all of a sudden people are feeding off of each other.
Exactly.
People who have a similar market, a similar persona they're going after.
Right.
And it's not just, me spewing what I believe is the best way to do it. It's like, okay, here's 3 things. And then someone goes, I tried this and it jumped.
Yeah. Boom. There, it's what I call, also it helps facilitate what I call the Coconut Telegraph from the Jimmy Buffett song. And the Coconut Telegraph is the network of salespeople without their sales manager, because that way they can talk about their sales manager, but they can do that. So, for example, when I'm on Skype for business, I'll say, oh, I need to reach out to this guy, and I'll say in a call. And then I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to go to the other guy in a call. They're talking to each other. And most of the time, and that's fantastic. And that's what you want to facilitate. So one year for Christmas, one of my reps gave me plastic coconuts, and they're up on the credenza that you can't see because of the Coconut Telegraph. And yesterday I got a call from one of the guys who goes, hey, boss, you need to be aware. Here's what's happening on the Telegraph right now that you need to be aware of. It was really helpful. So, I think that it brings that kind of teamwork. So it sees the whole team, but it also enhances those relationships outside of the meetings where they can help each other. Yeah. And that really helps us sustain good performance.
And that's it, because when I was a manager, the biggest hiccup was when an A player left. Because, okay, now you don't only have to fill that role, but that role, you're not going to get the same type of person. So at best, you're going to get an A- player who's going to be an A player in a year.
Right, because of the ramp
up.
Yeah.
And you understand that why they left. You probably had to take territory away from them or add quota to them that was disproportionate.
Right.
And sometimes you have control over, a lot of times you don't.
Right. The one thing that I've been proud of in my career is our ability to hang on to A players. We've really had good success hanging on to high performers. And I had a situation when I got here where right out of the gate, one of my reps, a B player, wanted to go join another division within the company. And what I told him was, look, if it's a good move for you, I'm not going to hold you back. But let me share with you our vision. Here's what we're going to do, and here's what I see you doing. And he didn't know me from Adam. This is a month into the job. But he bought into my vision and stayed. And now he's a real A player. And so it was really fun. So I think that hiring the right people is probably the most important thing you can do. I mean, if you look at Nick Saban at my beloved Crimson Tide, when he was with the Dolphins, he said, I got one first-round draft pick a year. At Alabama, I can recruit 20 of them a year. So that's one thing I've been really blessed with, is been able to maintain our A players, but then also recruit really good. I've had to bring on 4 new people on our team in North America in the last 6 months. And I mean, just boom, boom, boom. Great. And credit to them. But one's a guy I hired twice. And it's the second time I've hired him, and he brought into our vision. So I think creating that kind of culture will keep people. Yeah, people are going to leave. It's going to happen. But maintaining the team, the continuity, I think is really important, and something we're very deliberate about.
Yeah, and what does everybody who's you're interviewing want to do? They want to talk to the other reps.
As they should. If they don't, they probably don't go very far in my interview process.
Right. And then the manager, and as a rep to rep, you can tell if that person is giving you the straight scoop.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Don't BS a BSer, right? I mean,
if they're real cagey, you're like, this place is not the place to be.
Right. There's ways of saying it without saying it, but reps, and they should. So, is when the one I mentioned that I hired twice, he reached out to the people in his job and had a lot of questions as to why is the position open. You just give it to them straight. And, come in, and the 3-month ramp up, the guy's my number 2 producer nationwide. So it's really cool, but to see the energy when you upgrade the team, it really sends a good message across the entire organization. Like, hey, you know what? These are good hires. Mike might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he's hiring good people. And I've had a pretty good career hiring people a lot smarter than me. And it works. So it's really fun. I got an instant message from one of our engineering leaders yesterday. He goes, man, way to go. 4 significant upgrades. So, that's pretty cool to see that come together, and they're fitting in good in the culture.
Cool. Hey, it's been a fun conversation, Mike. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about Mike's rules?
Perfect. Mike, I'm on LinkedIn, Mike Chaudron, Chaudron, or reach out to me at UL. michael.chaudron@ul.com. We're working really hard in the medical device space, helping in this COVID-19 situation, helping companies that have not really, Ford's trying to make ventilators. Well, they make cars. We can help with that. So anyway, if there's anything we can do to help, I'm a huge fan, Brian. Thank you so much. What an honor to be on your podcast. This has been a blast.
How'd you like those rules? I think we all have to document these. If something happens bad 3 times in a row, write it down and turn it into a rule for you. If people don't show up for your meeting, if people don't represent themselves appropriately, if people ask the same question that doesn't make any sense often enough, maybe there's a way to prevent that. And that's what rules are about. It's about understanding the terrain, understanding the game you're playing, understanding how to play it. Because what we're taught at our companies is really who we are, what we do, and why you need it. But that's not how clients think. They're in their world. They care about themselves, which is one of my rules. My number 1 law is people will always do what's in their own self-interest first. They won't say it. They won't appear it. They won't be honest about it. They won't be forthcoming about it. But if you want to know what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do. And you know why we can't see it? Because we do it too. And that's one of the many, many lessons that we have in winning the complex sale or closing the complex sale. And if you're in the course already, check out the one-on-ones. It's the very last chapter. They're 30-minute coaching calls, talking over particular deals and how to keep the deal moving and preventing it from getting stuck. Looking out for the traps that we're going to walk into if we don't prepare ourselves, and the office hours. They've been great. A lot of collaboration, a lot of contribution from the people who are in the course, which was really the objective that I wanted. I wanted a community to talk about the deals, to come up with unique solutions, not just be about what Brian thinks. Of course, I'm rarely wrong. No, once I was. No, it's not about me teaching. It's about everybody contributing and learning off of years and years of experience. Because let's face it, nobody teaches this. There's books out there, but check out the authors. Most of them have never sold. I look at the other sales people. And I've been selling for 20. You've been selling really for about 5 years and mostly just yourself. It's a very different from a bag carrying rep who's done nothing but the hardest of the hard, the startups. And that's it, because the people who take the course, they're not working at the big brand companies where they're taking orders. Brian, how do I take an order faster? That hasn't come up. We don't cover that. The people who are in the course are selling the hardest of the hard. No brand recognition, no inbound leads, high expectations, complex sale, tough market space. Nobody comes into the course with an easy job. Why is that important? Because it pushes me. It pushes everybody else in the course to step up, to think differently. Instead of just going through the motions, because the number one thing I hear when people sign up for the course is, this is not at all what I've been taught. Yeah, because you're in the course because what you taught didn't work. If it did work, you wouldn't need the course. That's the difference. So make sure you go to b2brevenue.com, check out the courses. I'll hold the prices to the end of April. You'll see where you can sign up. Either pay 12 monthly payments, it's not a membership, or all at once, and get in there. And believe me, it'll pay off big for you. We'll see you next time.